I would like to speak to this, if that's okay.
I'll speak after you.
Just a couple of things. First of all, coming from a different state, I have experienced what this looks like, and having met with parents on both sides, I understand the wanting of them, especially in districts where there are no schools that are when you have that many failing schools. So I don't want to speak to the fact, be belligerent about this. I understand both sides of this issue, and I understand it from an actual experiential point of view. There's just a couple of things that are in the narrative that I think that we need to know. First of all, the argument is school choice. We already have choice. We're not talking about choice. The parents can choose homeschool, which I did at one point, private school or public school. What we're actually speaking about here is fiscal capacity to make those choices, which is different from this idea of freedom of choice. Competition and the argument of academics. The school districts that are controlled by essentially the Tennessee General Assembly, because they're the ones that make the rules that we have to follow, has significant restrictions on us. So there's no competition when you tie the hands of one to the freedom of another, where they can choose whatever curriculum that they want to choose. We can only select from a list that's been approved at the state level. That's not competition. That's like a fight where you tie somebody's hand behind their back and say, go at it. And I really, that bothers me, especially as an educator, that bothers me. One of the big reasons for me, I know some on this board it's not, is the effect on private schools. Because if you start mixing public and private, there's always going to be accountability. I see it happening West Virginia, Utah, Arkansas, Arizona, Louisiana has always had it, has strings attached if you take the money in the private schools, and I would like to see the private schools remain autonomous and not end up with the strings attached. And once you start taking the dollars, the strings will come. It might not be today or tomorrow, but it will come down the line, because there's always this idea of accountability. And then the last thing is this idea that where are the seats going to come from? Your elite schools are full, or the elite schools will not take the vouchers for fear of losing autonomy. I can tell you from my own experience and from the data that the schools that generally take these, not all, I'm not making a blanket statement, but a large portion of these schools tend to be schools that have seats. And the reason they have seats is because they're not meeting the needs of the parents. And so they don't have tuition-paying parents taking those seats. And so they want to fill those seats with voucher students. And unfortunately, I have watched one particular school in Louisiana that did take it. The next year, they went from trying to teach 2 curricula because they had to meet these requirements that the state put on them, to jettisoning their curriculum and adopting Common Core because it was easier to deal with the voucher requirements via that way, meaning now they just become giving what the public schools are getting, which the tuition-paying parents were not happy with. So it just, there's a lot that goes on here. I just wanted to give the reasons why I'm going to sign this, the reason why I have a significant problem with the voucher system. I'm not going to go through the bill, but there's a lot of problems with the bill as well that are just too long to go into here. And I'd be happy to talk to anybody who wants to talk about those other problems as well. But those are some significant problems, in my opinion, with this bill. Thank you.
Okay, so before I vote, I too wrote some things down. This is from my perspective on how this bill will impact not only us today, but for for years to come. I'm a simple person. I'm not an educator. So hopefully I think a lot of people will understand where this bill is coming from, so please bear with me. So Tennessee voters, welcome to the arena. So who's your opponent, you may ask? Well, it's the lobbyists, special interest groups, national organizations, global organizations, and the United Nations Sustainable Department for Quality Education, just to name a few. What are we fighting about? Education, public education, specifically school vouchers. And ladies and gentlemen, this won't be a fair fight, not even close. In this fight, the governor has used his power to try and change the opinion of those against the voucher ideas from last year. Let's just take a look. Teachers are the bedrock of our community, and they are overwhelmingly opposed to vouchers last year. The governor thinks a one-time bonus of $2,000 will change their opinion. To me, this is an attempted bribe to gain their support for this bill. Our teachers are too intelligent and can see the consequences of this bill, and that no amount of money will ever change their opinion on how critical their job is and how critical public education is. This will cost taxpayers approximately $130 million. That's just for the $2,000 bonus. Governor, please ask these teachers what they really want, because vouchers aren't it. Next, I'm sure the governor asked his team how to get school boards and leadership to support his bill. His fix? Well, hey, let's allow public schools to continue to receive full funding even when a student accepts a voucher and leaves the system. Some call this a compromise. I call this paying taxes twice for one student. This will impact your pockets as taxpayers, and right now we should be cutting spending, not increasing. Wilson County citizens should not be subsidizing any other county with our tax dollars. This is not a conservative value, Mr. Governor. Next, this bill will allow private schools to keep their autonomy. The key word is allow. I'm sure private schools will be grateful for the government's permission to operate that a private entity is entitled to. Wilson County School District is in need of new construction and maintenance. Speaking with school board members throughout the state, they need new construction and maintenance as well. Can anyone here tell me why construction and maintenance is included in a school voucher bill? Why would the governor put construction and maintenance in a bill dealing with school vouchers? The upkeep of our schools is necessary, not negotiable, and it shouldn't be tied to bad legislation. Now, for the $1 million question. Why was a school voucher bill placed in a special session with funding for our neighbors who were devastated over 4 months ago by Hurricane Helene? This is despicable and expected from swamp bureaucrats from Washington, D.C., not from so-called conservatives from the great state of Tennessee. This should never happen, and the school voucher bill should have went through the proper channels. As a conservative, I do believe in competition and true school choice, but this bill is absolutely not it. Many Tennessee voters have been repeatedly exposed to media and social media proclaiming Governor Lee's bill, school choice, is the same as President Donald Trump's. I sit here today to tell you they're not the same, not even close. Please do your research. Do not be deceived. So, we talked about being in the arena, and we discussed who we were up against. Now it's time to explain who chooses the winner. It will be the representatives who will pick a side. The representatives that you voted for, that I voted for, that we voted for, will pick between us, the Tennessee voters, or the lobbyists like Americans for Prosperity, the Beacon Center, the Tennessean newspaper, just to name a few. Tennessee voters, both Republican and Democrat, oppose this bill. So who will our representatives listen to and represent? We are watching, and we will not forget. To our governor, the only way I can fathom you pushing this bill so hard is to cement your legacy. I'm here to tell you, in the education community, your legacy was already cemented when you hired Penny Schwinn, who wreaked havoc on our public schools during her reign. Your school voucher bill will only paint a larger picture of the negative impact you will have on public education in Tennessee. This is why I cannot support this bill.
I just want to say thank you to Dr. Myers and Mr. Padilla for your comments. I do appreciate them. And I also want to thank the County Commission for passing this resolution, as well as whomever worked on it. I appreciate their time to put this together. I want to say that I did reach out to all of our legislators, and the feedback that I received was they want to hear from parents. So parents, please reach out. Let them know your opinion on this because they truly want to know where you stand.
Yeah, I'd just like to say too that I think everybody in the public does need to read this bill. You need to understand what it really is and not fall into the trap of the public. It's not a school voucher. To me, this is just a welfare program. We have for 20,000 lucky people, whoever gets to pick that. I don't know who the selection committee is that get those. If the current students that have this already from the pilot program, do they lose it? I don't think so. So is it really now it's just borne on the back of all of us to continue a program in failing school districts where we're doing a great job, and we have to continue to do a great job with the funding that we have. I think I would encourage everybody to take a look at that bill, read it, understand what it is, ask questions, and get in front of your representatives because it's not what it's being touted to be. So thank you very much.
Bear with me for a minute because I have some comments. Melissa, did you?
I was just going to echo what Ms. McGee said. I believe the legislators know how the school boards feel, and it's important that teachers, staff, parents, taxpayers contact your legislators and know your feelings on the voucher bill.
So first I'll say thank you to Mr. Jennings for helping me write this. Second, I'll say when I've talked to my legislators, what I'm hearing is that there is and what I'm seeing in some of the news is that there's overwhelming support for this. This is where they're getting that is this is being touted as school choice. This is not school choice. And I'm going to piggyback off something that Dr. Myers said. I support private schools too, because I think that's true school choice. You get to choose the tool you use to educate your children, public, private, or homeschool. But when you infuse tax dollars into another method of school, it comes with accountability, and tax dollars deserve accountability. And when these schools start getting tax dollars, that removes true school choice because then you get much of the same. In the 5 years, 4.5, whatever, that I've been on this board, this has been the single most unifying issue in this community that I've seen. When people really understand what's in this bill and what this means, I see public school parents, private school parents, homeschool parents all agree that they don't want this. When you see the Tennessee Conservative and the Tennessee Holler agree, it's something to take note of. And they agree on the fact they don't want vouchers. Wilson County overwhelmingly does not want this. Just looking through my notes, I want to point out some things that parents, if you haven't read it, I want you to take note of this. There's an ever-changing fiscal note, and it's big. This will impact 20,000 kids out of 1 million Tennessee children. Like I already said, there won't be true school choice anymore because where tax dollars go, accountability follows, and it should. We are so lucky in Wilson County with what we've been able to do with our funds as far as safety. And there are school districts out there that aren't in that place. And they look at what happened yesterday, and then they look at losing funds, and that really truly impacts what they can do to protect their kids. And then I'm going to piggyback off something that Mr. Padilla said. This special session, there's a reason that this one phrase is in this resolution. Any consideration of any legislation establishing the Education Freedom Scholarship Act should be fully vetted and proceed through the normal legislative process, not a special session. Why is it in a special session? What emergency is this? To act swiftly, I'm going to read a statement from the governor. We believe the state has a responsibility to act quickly on issues that matter most to Tennesseans, and there is widespread support in the General Assembly and across Tennessee for a special session on the most pressing legislative priorities: a unified Education Freedom Act and a comprehensive package for Hurricane Helene and other disaster relief efforts. It bothers me that vouchers came before Hurricane Helene relief. It bothers me that a special session was called months after the true emergency. 4 months, thank you. While school districts across the state, among many other organizations, were holding supply drives, and Mr. Padilla and Mr. Luttrell can attest because they loaded up trucks and drove out to those areas and unloaded, nothing happened at the state. And I just can't imagine that these individuals in those areas said, we need help, but we also need vouchers. It's heartbreaking, and it's completely inappropriate, and I hope that our legislators speak that. Any other comments?
I did want to say something that I think people need to understand about a special session, since that was brought up. Here's the catch-22. There are the votes on the voucher, the votes on all of the items that are in there. Then there is an appropriation vote. What'll happen, and this is where the arm twisting will occur, if you vote against the vouchers in the special session, but the appropriations are in there, now you're in a catch-22, because if you vote against the appropriations because you're against vouchers, now you're saying you have created a narrative that you're not going to support the hurricane victims, which is why these need to be completely separate. As you said, it should not be in there. So again, contact your legislators and tell them. And I've talked to other legislators in other areas, and their constituents do not want this. They're getting phone calls from their constituents, and they don't want them. The constituents I'm talking to want their schools to be taken care of. They're not looking for vouchers. A number of people looking for vouchers, at least in our area, is minimal compared to other districts. But yes, I'm very, I don't know how to put the words there, but having a special session and calling it an emergency, in my opinion, lacks integrity. Absolutely. And I want to see our government act with integrity. Even if we disagree, act with integrity. Thank you.
Thank you for adding that, because I'm disgusted. I'm truly disgusted. There are communities that are gone, and to use that to anybody's advantage.
I would like to echo what's already been said as far as I stand behind private schools. I've got friends that teach and have their kids that go to private school. That's their choice. And I believe that we need to hold our elected officials at the state level, all the way up to Bill Lee, accountable for our tax money. Charity starts at home, folks. That's what I was raised in. You take care of your own backyard before you jump the fence. And if we've got poorly performing schools or failing schools, quote unquote, from a couple weeks ago I read, then we need to utilize that money and put it back in our public schools. We don't need to jump the fence and allow this parent choice. And I'm for parent choice. If you want to take your child, put them in a private school, so be it. But we need to take care of public schools first. And if we've got the money for this voucher program, then we've got money to start addressing some of these failing schools that we've got. And I'm just going to piggyback off what's been echoed here. Not to repeat it, there's a lot of weak limbs on this tree.
Just want to say I'm proud of this board, and I thank you all.
And I'm not going to speak on it. I think it's pretty well known I'm a public school guy. The latest version of that bill, the appropriation, give or take, for the first year implementation is $400 million. Now, Now, I know that's including the teacher bonus money. She got 200, and I think, if I remember correctly, 92,000 recurring funding. But at $400 million for 1 year implementation for 20,000 students, that's all state money, with some of it coming from the general fund. Do the simple math. It's $20,000 it's going to cost for every student. Our total expenditure, including our local money, which is probably about 40%, if I remember correctly, is $10,000 and some dollars. What could we do with $20,000 of state money per pupil, not just in Wilson County, but all across this state? That's the comment I want to make tonight. I want people to think about that. You talk about safety measures, you talk about maintenance, you talk about teacher pay. At $20,000, I would love to run this district and bring you a budget where I had $20,000 per pupil expenditure. And that's what's being proposed for 1 year. It may go down in the future. But if those $20,000 are worth that kind of funding, I've got $21,000 that's worth the same amount of funding. Thank you.
The last comments I'll make is, I think each one of us might have ran up here as a Republican, as a conservative. I'll let y'all speak for yourselves, but this isn't just a one party. This is both parties saying that we are vehemently against this. And this is coming from somebody who has a child in public school, a child in private school, and a son who's a public school teacher. Okay? I'm so excited about this, and I think our board members are so excited about this, is because we just want the truth to be told. That's it, the truth. So when you see a poll, it says 70% support school choice. When you go ask somebody, would you like more opportunities for students to have more choices and their parents to have more choices? And they say yes. That's the type of questions that are on this poll. So just remember polls, how they can be manipulated. And when you see the same polls putting out ads supporting school choice, it's not hard to deduce. And I'm a Marine. I'm not pull string, go boom type of guy. I can see it. I can see that. And I do not like when people with authority, people with decision-making ability use deception to get an agenda pushed across, especially at the expense of our children, all right, or the expense of a community that experienced a hurricane. There's a lot of people that stand up for a lot of things, and I won't stand for that. I just won't. And so I thank the board members here for seeing it. And once again, it's just the truth. If it wasn't the truth, we wouldn't be so excited about it. But please, tell the truth. Be honest brokers, and if the chip slates still lie that way, then I'll shut up and color. But I'm telling you, from the experiences and the people I've talked to, it's not happening that way. I'm just going to be quiet. Thank you.